Hello and welcome to my cat nursery. Uh, as always, this is just Ethan. It is Tuesday, June 1st, the 1st of June, 7 p.m. Eastern. As always, give a couple minutes for people to get in and get settled. So please feel free to say hello. Let us know where you're viewing from, and we'll get rolling in just a couple minutes. So please leave some comments. Say hello. Or I can just show everyone interesting cat toys. I really should clean up beforehand. But here, let's through the magic of camera. Oh, look, a totally clean place. That's better, at least. Now it's just a weird tunnel. So yeah, we're going to start in just about 70 seconds. So if you're just joining us, welcome to Just Ethan. It's just Ethan, just me. Please say hello. Let us know you're here, or let me know you're here, and where you're viewing from. Favorite cookie? Favorite cookie, maybe? I think that's an exciting way to go. Hi, Kim. Well, welcome. I'm glad you're here. As always, please say hello. Leave some comments. Say hi. We'll get started in just a minute. Hi, Anita. How are you? Good to see you. All right, so if you're just joining us, my name is Ethan. This is Just Ethan. It is Tuesday, June 1st, 7:02 p.m. Hello, I have a fear if someone hurt me every day. I have that kind of fears. Absolutely. Thank you for weighing in. Hello, Ethan, and everyone joining. I'm currently in Kansas City. Hello, Eliza. There's Deirdre. Here we are. There's Taryn. This is my first time tuning in from Massachusetts. Welcome, welcome, Taryn. Nice to see you. It's Kim's first time too. Here's Mario from Lebanon. Missing your lives. Haven't been able to join for a long time. Yeah, it's good to see you, Mario. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. So let's get rolling. As always, feel free to leave comments and questions in the comment thread. We will always get to them. As always, Just Ethan likes to be a collaborative conversation. So we will talk throughout the hour. But let's get started. So my name is Ethan. I'm a national advocate for the International OCD Foundation, which, as we know, always means I have OCD and I won't stop talking about it. Hi, Summer. It's good to see you. Jay from Northern Virginia. It's good to see you again too. Ethan froze up. Uh-oh. That sounds terrible. I think are we unfrozen now? Are we moving around? Are we smooth? And I can't dance, but Deirdre, let me know. So let's quickly get it through the housekeeping so we can jump into. Oh, my mom's here. Hi, Mom. She's never commented, but welcome. I'm so glad you've joined us. Now, nothing to be nervous about. Just the woman who gave birth to me. It's fine. No pressure. She's now embarrassed that I know her. She's now like, why did I say something? Shortbread. Oh, shortbread cookies are delicious. Hey, Curtis from Canada. Good to see you. Anyway, this town hall is intended to serve as educational content and is not intended to replace therapy. For treatment-related questions, please be sure to work with your local provider or contact a local clinician. The IOCDF is not a crisis hotline and should not be used if you're in distress or feel unsafe. If you're in a crisis or ever feeling suicidal or unsafe, please go to your local emergency room, call 911, or call the Suicide Prevention Hotline at 800-273-8255. Video is good for me. Mom Jay says hello. Thank you, Jay, for saying hi to my mom. That's awesome. And as always, we want to be respectful and kind to others. We want to create as safe a space as possible. So always keep in mind that this is on the internet, Facebook, YouTube, and we'll live there. But with that, we'd like to foster an honest, sincere, vulnerable conversation in order to support one another. So always be kind and respectful, or I'll get angry. I know it sounded real angry. So with that, today's topic is all about mindset. I don't know if we talked about mindset, maybe touched on mindset here or there. I would love to have an episode with your mom sometime. You know, Jay, I agree with you. Maybe Just Ethan is a good place to do it. I will talk to her and see, because they obviously both my parents played a big role in my treatment and recovery. And so I think that a mom and Ethan episode would be really, really cool. So I think that's a great idea. Hi, Katie. I never know what to say. Hi, Katie. Hi, Katie. Katie's here. So now my girlfriend and my mother are here. That's weird. I am a mom of children with OCD. Ah, yes. The parent angle is so important, for sure. Piper said, I have the same cat tunnel. They love it. They go nuts for this cat tunnel. Okay. Somebody is easily distracted should not do live streams. Jess is probably rolling her eyes, appropriately so. So with that, today is about mindset. And when I talk about mindset, I am talking about mindset not only in regards to your OCD, but in regards to thoughts about treatment, approaching treatment, mindset in treatment, and mindset leaving treatment. I'm a college student with OCD. Thank you, Piper. What college are you at? So as always, we're definitely going to get to Q&A and lots of questions. But first, let's talk about mindset a little bit. So I am curious to everyone's mindset right now. Hey, Mike, it's good to see you from Virginia. What is everyone's mindset right now in regards to their OCD? Are you in treatment? Are you out of treatment? Are you not in treatment? Are you starting treatment? Oh, UMD, cool. How are you feeling about it? And let's clarify mindset from emotions a little bit, right? So I'm not necessarily, hey, from LA, hi, Allie. Not looking necessarily for I'm angry, I'm sad, but are you feeling optimistic? Are you feeling hopeful? Are you feeling helpless or unsure or nervous? I guess those are all emotions too. But I'll give you a second. Feel free to weigh in and let me know where your mindset is in regards to your OCD and or treatment. So Piper wrote, in treatment, I'm excited. Man, that makes me super happy to see. Deirdre wrote, had a kick in the pants today. Deirdre, I'll definitely want to hear. Actually, leave a comment. Let me know what was your kick in the pants. Defender wrote, I'm out of treatment and have my days. I think that is a usual and normal occurrence, Defender. I think I feel the same way as most people out of treatment do. As I always like to say, and I'm just kind of repeating myself here, but for me, it's all about more good days than bad. So if I'm having more good days than bad, more good hours in a day than bad hours, good days in a week, weeks in a month in a year, I'm winning. I'm winning the battle. So I think that's a good thing. Yeah, absolutely. So how's everyone else feeling in terms of mindset and where you are with your OCD or with treatment? Had OCD since I was 5 and now 28. Piper, how long have you been in treatment? Trying to get our son to participate in therapy. Jay, I can definitely speak to that for sure. Katie wrote, I feel like I'm at a crossroads where I'm making steps towards actually accepting uncertainty over the reassurance rush, but the steps seem small and scary right now. Thank you for saying that. Eric from Houston is here. Good to see you, Eric. Eric is our reigning trivia champion. All right, well, I will keep going with mindset, but please, not sure if I can share public. No problem, Deirdre. You can message me or email me and we can talk about it. Sorry to call you out on that. Less than a year. I love hearing that you're excited about therapy. You've been in it less than a year and in treatment, and I want to hear more about that as well, Piper. Caroline wrote, in a weird place of unwillingness, but out of intensive treatment. Definitely relate to Katie though. Okay, so we can all agree that there's a myriad of mindsets. And the reason I wanted to bring up mindset, because I think mindset, and again, this is just my opinion, I'm not a clinician, I'm not an expert. Son refuses medication due to it being a trigger. We are stuck in a loop. Cool. Well, I'll come back to everybody's questions if they're not related to mindset. So hang with me, stay tuned. We will get into all of those, and I will try to offer some lived experience advice or suggestions that may help in your situation as well. Eliza wrote, I want to get involved in exposure response prevention. Absolutely. Heather wrote, I was diagnosed 3 weeks ago. Now 2 weeks into ERP, I have no idea how I feel about any of it yet. It's pretty overwhelming. Absolutely. And thank you. Please keep commenting. I'll get through them. So the reason I wanted to talk about mindset is, for me, mindset really dictated how I progressed through treatment and through therapy, and how I approached it in the beginning, how I approached it in the middle, and how I approached it in the end. Incidentally, Piper, I'm on Luvox as well. So getting into ERP this weekend, that's great. I think that mindset played a significant role. And I think also we are all products of our experiences and history, which then dictate our mindset. You know, if we're diagnosed with OCD and obviously had a rough go of it, but we're diagnosed and we can access treatment fairly quickly, perhaps our mindset is more optimistic because we discover what's been going on and that there's help and there's hope, and we engage in that treatment. I know my circumstance, as you may or may not know, was 17 years from diagnosis to treatment, with many, many, many psychologists in the middle, right? That didn't do exposure response prevention, that did talk therapy, and with each one I got sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. So by the time I reached the right therapy, which was ERP and cognitive behavioral therapy, my mindset was bad. I was in a bad place mentally, right? My mindset wasn't positive. I wasn't optimistic about the treatment. I was definitely depressed from a clinical and emotional standpoint. And so my mindset going into this process was really working against me. And that's really why I wanted to talk about different frames of mind, different mindsets, how we can shift our mindset to really benefit us versus hinder us or make treatment more complicated than it has to be. Hi, Matthias from Brazil. Thank you for coming in. Keep up the great work. I appreciate that. And all great questions. We will weigh in on all these. I will jump back. I won't, if you guys keep asking questions, I won't spend too much time on mindset. But again, for me, the shift in my treatment to where it became helpful and effective happened with a shift in my mindset, where I shifted from very resentful of the process and very resentful toward treatment and therapy, and very pessimistic about the whole process, right, to this idea of maybe this does work. Maybe I should give this a chance. And starting to feel a sense of, for me, desperation, but also a sense of hopefulness and optimism. And that shift really made profound impact on my treatment and my recovery. But thoughts in mindsets. So what if it does, like for me, what if this doesn't work? What if this doesn't help? Maybe it worked for everyone else, but it didn't work for me. Let me know if these are thoughts you guys have had. Maybe it worked for everyone else. Maybe it didn't work for me. Maybe my OCD is different. If someone was speaking, I'd be like, yeah, that's great, but this is my situation. It's totally different. My mind worked very, very hard to undermine so much of treatment, so much of therapy, so much of inspirational opportunities to hear from people. So it really attacked hopefulness, willingness. It really got stuck on this idea of, this is my last chance to get better. My expectations, my mindfulness expectations, my mindset expectations were so harsh. When I went into residential, it was like, this is the last chance. This is the last chance I have to get better. If I don't get this right, then I'm done. And so my mindset in terms of expectations was very black and white and not flexible. And Katie wrote, maybe I'm the only one whose thoughts are really true, and mine is an OCD. Absolutely. Bonnie wrote, my mindset, I hate exposure. I really want to do my rituals, but since really working on it, I'm happier than ever in a 63-year life. So I'm thankful that ERP exists. I love that, Bonnie. And hi, Betsy from PA. I keep looking for ways to disapprove that. Oh, sorry, you have a question, Brandon. I'll get to that in one sec. But absolutely, like, our mindset is dictated by our thoughts, it's dictated by our emotions and our actions. But I think it's important to be so aware. Being aware of, my cat is like screaming outside the door right now. Being aware of a mindset, taking a minute, which is a very acceptance commitment therapy approach. Like, we're going to take a moment and observe ourselves and our mindset and try to look from a third person perspective, right? Or an objective point of view, or as my therapist way many years ago talked about, like being a curious scientist and observing certain things about our OCD or our thoughts or our feelings. So in this case, observing our mindset and where we're at and how it's affecting our recovery, our treatment, our approach to treatment, us engaging and finding treatment. Because at the end of the day, we can shift, we have the ability to shift our mindset from something that is helpless to something that is helpful. And that's really important, because I think that treatment for OCD can be difficult, it can be hard, it can be painful. I think we can put, you know what, out of curiosity, and I'm going to shift a little bit here. If you had to give OCD treatment, or ERP in this case, or any other, one word, how would you describe it? I'm super curious. So if you had to describe exposure response prevention or OCD treatment in one word, how would you describe it? Caroline wrote worthwhile. Kim wrote cruel. Deirdre wrote scary. This is great. Keep going. Betsy wrote painful. Eliza wrote hope. Rachel wrote terrifying. Hard. Emily says annoying, and it is annoying. Piper wrote freedom. That's a powerful word. So I slightly tricked you. I wasn't necessarily deviating from my torture. Okay. Scary but effective. I like that, Jay. Necessary. I think we should all really look at these, because these are really examples of our mindset, how we are currently viewing something. We all, obviously, it's not as simple as a word, and it's not as everybody's got their own. Eric wrote gradual. Betsy painful. Deborah vulnerable. All these words not only reflect, exposure response prevention to you, but they reflect your own experiences, your unique experiences, where you are in the moment, your wins, your defeats, your successes, your failures. They're a culmination of where you are in this moment. But it's kind of neat to take a look and see on written out in the comment thread what your mindset is around treatment, because it'll dictate how you move forward. And also to see how everyone else sees it. And maybe people who wrote hope and freedom at some point in the beginning would have written terrified and hard, or scary, or torture, or vulnerable. Betsy wrote eventually freeing. Thomas wrote restricted. Hey, Thomas, good to see you. So this was a really neat exercise, and I hope it was for you too, just in a sense to get an idea of how everybody views treatment. And I'm wondering, now that you've seen it, if it's already made you aware of your mindset, if you're starting to question maybe why you feel that way, for both sides. If you feel freedom, why would somebody feel that it's scary or painful? If you feel scary or painful, how is somebody describing the same thing as necessary and freeing? Let's talk about that a little bit. What are your thoughts as you're seeing these descriptions of exposure and response prevention and OCD treatment in general? While we're doing that, our friend in Brazil wrote, I couldn't agree more. Ethan, recovery is a torturous and multi-phase nuanced journey. Each day presents a new obstacle, and each obstacle actually is another opportunity for growth. Well said. I couldn't agree with you more. Recovery is a torturous and multifaceted, nuanced journey. And each day presents a new obstacle, and each obstacle actually is another opportunity for growth. Absolutely, right? I mean, if you have an opportunity to, well, let me back up, but that's a great point. So Jay wrote, gives more hope. Rachel, thought of confronting your enemy is painful. Eric wrote, I feel like my OCD experience has been a little different, maybe less intense, but looking back on the last 2 years, there have been some big positive changes. Taryn wrote, treatment is overwhelming, but I know it is important. So now there's a shift more toward the positive, a different mindset, if you will. And I like that. And Eric, you know, I think everybody's experience is completely unique. And that's, you know, that's okay. That's totally okay. At the end of the day, there's no wrong or right way to experience. Everyone's feelings are completely valid. Nobody here, especially me, is saying that you shouldn't feel that way about ERP, or you shouldn't feel that way about your journey or OCD, right? You should feel how you feel. We want to make room for feelings, and we want to be compassionate toward feelings and validate feelings. That's really important. At the same time, we also have to ask ourselves if what we're feeling or our mindset or any is helping us in what we're trying to achieve, right? So there's a difference between making room and being compassionate and validating our feelings, but then letting those feelings dictate how we move forward. And those are two very, very different things. So we can definitely validate and make room for feelings, but they don't have to tell us what to do, where to go, how to make decisions, and so forth, even though they're very, very convincing. Feelings and thoughts work as a really tough team together, right? They're quite the duo. You have the thought, you have the feeling, that combination. It's real. It's real. I'm scared. It's real. But I love that Thomas wrote, treatment is no picnic, but empowering. I totally agree with you. And by the way, it's worth noting that I probably felt each one of these mindsets or emotions, if you will, during my entire journey, and still do, right? I could go down the list and probably give you an example of a time that I felt each one of these things from each of you, and that's the journey, right? So, but I think it's important, I think, for everybody to understand, just as a community, where we all come from and what we're all experiencing. And it's really important for people to see that are having a rougher time with treatment, that there's hope and there's help, right? And for people that are having, you know, an easier time, I should say, to recognize the process for what it is, and that other people are struggling and so forth, just so we all have perspective. Perspective is powerful. Deborah wrote, there's a mindset that keeps me in a small life and a mindset that invites me into a larger life. And since I value the larger life in the end, I fight hard to keep that kind of mindset. Well said, Deborah. I totally agree with you. OCD really creates a small box to navigate in, or a low ceiling. And I lived in that for a long, long time until I found treatment. And even then, it was really hard to break the ceiling of that box. It was really scary to see what was outside. I always use the analogy of being in a cage, and I always felt like I was a bird living in a cage. And the cage, up until I was 30 or 31, I kept getting to the top, or as high as it would go, and then I'd kind of crash back down, and then I'd fly back up and get to the top and crash back down. And that was sort of my routine, right? Get as far as I could within the confines of the cage, and then that was it, and had to just keep maneuvering in the cage. And then it very much felt like after treatment, sort of the cage door was open, and I kind of stood on the edge and looked out and was like, whoa, there's a whole world out there. That's scary and really exciting. So I really relate to that, Deborah. Eric wrote, agreed, there's nothing wrong with how I've been doing ERP. It's just customized for unique experience, which is how it should be, 100%. My OCD symptoms haven't always been obvious, so a lot of professionals have missed them, but they've had a profound impact on my life as a whole. Absolutely, Eric. And I think a lot of people might feel that way as well, especially individuals struggling with a lot of intrusive thoughts and taboo thoughts and not inward compulsions and things like that. So I totally relate to that. Thomas wrote, yeah, the battle never really ends, but you do eventually get the upper hand. And I will go back to questions. So please, if I haven't, stick around. Everybody's questions are there, and I will go back up. Matthias, I know it's not Matthias, it's Matthias, wrote, the biggest shift for me was when I stopped being mad at me for having the condition and started cultivating self-compassion. Self-compassion is key to recovery. Let me tell you, I've said that all the time, and you said it perfectly. I agree with you. Self-compassion is key to recovery, and self-compassion is key to dealing with life after OCD. It was something that I didn't have, as you've heard me talk about many, many times, something that I didn't have after I got better. And life, as I sort of had to face it for the first time without OCD, was difficult. And I was very hard on myself because I felt like, well, OCD is not as in the way as much anymore. I should be able to do all these amazing things. And when those things didn't happen, I was asking myself, well, what's wrong with me? What's broken with me? I don't have OCD to blame. I don't have mental illness to blame. Clearly, I'm flawed. There's Ethan's flawed. The individual. I can't blame mental illness anymore. And so, I had a really hard time and a really rough time around the age of 40 with that, and had some really hardcore downtime where I was introduced to self-compassion, which, as I always say, was like learning Japanese backwards. But man, great comment. I totally agree with you. Katie wrote, at least for me, I also think there's an element of fighting too hard, where part of it just becomes trusting the treatment, surrendering, and diving into life. Absolutely. I think that treatment after a while can be maladaptive, because the goal of treatment is getting back into life. So if you're just staying in treatment for years and years and years, and let me preface this, I've been in treatment for years and years and years. I see a therapist every week, right? Once a week. So I'm not talking about like staying in treatment. I'm specifically talking about, let's say if you don't want to be in residential for 5 years, right? The whole goal of being in intensive treatment or any type of treatment is to get into life and live life, make the most out of life. So we definitely want to have an opportunity to do that. And especially with OCD, it can never feel ready, but then again, if we waited till we felt just right for a lot of things, we wouldn't do a whole lot. I spoke to a group at a residential program in Houston last week, and I talked to a woman that was telling me that she was being discharged in a few days, and she was really nervous. And what if the thoughts came back, and what if the feelings came back, and how would she cope, and how would she deal? And it's easy in here, but what about out there? And that is so common. That is so common. But you have to just sort of like the faith of ERP, taking that it works on faith. You sort of have to accept that it will continue to work outside of wherever you are, and that it won't be easy, and it won't be a straight line, and it may not even be smooth, but that we have to trust in our decisions and our skills, and that we may not get it right the first time or even the second time, but we will continue to do what we know is right if we continue to follow the skills and tools that we've been taught. So great point, Katie. Eric wrote, yes, my compulsions are mostly mental, including a lot of rumination. Deborah wrote, goal of treatment is getting back into life. Love that. Oh, cool. Oh, that was my quote. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. People are leaving some great comments here. So let me go back before we get too deep and start answering some questions, because I don't want to forget. Some people posted some important questions that I just want to make sure I get to. But please keep commenting, because we'll work our way back down. Just give me a half second. I'm going to scroll back up just to make sure I don't miss anything. Okay, we're at favorite cookies. Went too far. Okay, hi, I was diagnosed 3 weeks ago, now 2 weeks into ERP. So I want to talk about this. Heather, I don't know if you're still here, and this isn't particularly a question, but she wrote at 7:10 p.m., Heather wrote, I was diagnosed 3 weeks ago, now 2 weeks into ERP. I have no idea how I feel about any of it yet. It's pretty overwhelming. So a couple things, Heather, if you're still here, and I hope you are. The first thing is, and I think we can all comment, the first thing when I read is, wow, you were diagnosed 3 weeks ago and you're 2 weeks into ERP. That's 1 week. That's incredible. That's amazing. And I don't know if you know that or not, but to be diagnosed with OCD and immediately put into the correct treatment is unbelievable. So you already have an incredible advantage that so many didn't have. And so that's really, really exciting. And I would wholeheartely see that as an amazing. Oh, hi Heather. I just saw your comment at the bottom. I scrolled down to see if you were still here. Mario, I'll look for your question. So so the first thing is, I'm super excited, sorry, that you're in treatment. And the short of it is, ERP is very overwhelming. and can be pretty scary. And I think that when we get thrown into it, I think most, if not all of us, really have no clue how to feel about it, or even what's going on for that matter. We're challenging lots of thoughts and feelings, and putting ourselves through things that are scary, and it just is, as you said, overwhelming. So the good news is you feel exactly how you should feel, which is what is going on, right? There's a couple really good things about this. The first thing is that, again, you're in ERP, shortly after diagnosis, which is phenomenal. Second, so I would have so much optimism around that and so much hope for myself. The second thing is that, with exposure and response prevention, it's all about, I hope, as you're learning, not only about your OCD, but about the treatment itself, exposing yourself to your fears, and then, preventing that compulsive response. And in doing that, that's going to bring the OCD out. So, as you dive into ERP, it's going to feel like your OCD is getting worse, but it's because you're challenging your OCD. And as a therapist once told me, you can't punch OCD in the face unless it's right there, if it's close, right? So as you start to piss off OCD because you're not compulsing, it will get loud and angry and scary and all of those things. And that's just a sign that you're doing the right thing, right? I know, and it can be a sign to us that, oh my gosh, this isn't working. This is super scary. I know it was for me, but in reality, it's just a sign that you're challenging OCD, and OCD is getting really angry, and it's going to try to throw you off, but you have an opportunity while it's out to punch it in the face. And sorry to be so violent, but so that's a great opportunity. But I think I wanted to highlight your statement, Heather, because I think so many people feel that way, whether they were thrown into ERP a week or a year, or in my case, 17 years or whatever. I think we jump in there and go, what's going on? This doesn't make sense. I don't understand. Am I trying to prove that it's not going to happen? Am I trying to prove that it is going to happen? Why am I scaring myself? I don't understand. I mean, all of that stuff exists, right? So, and one of the things you can do, Heather, on top of if you're in treatment, is like check out the IOCDF resource pages. There's some really great articles and insights, not just into ERP, but OCD and how it behaves and what it does and how it means and all that stuff. And by no means do I want you to get, you don't need to figure it out. I thought of something else, but you don't need to figure it out. But I think, additional insight especially in the beginning about OCD education is really, really important. And your therapist may have already given you that, and that's awesome too. I've said this before, and my tried and true strategy for ERP are two things. And this is when working with a therapist. It is to listen and say yes. And it is the simplest thing and the hardest thing to do, because we, as individuals with OCD, are, I don't mean to brag, but I speak for all of us, overly intelligent, creative, smart, vivid imagination, funny, brilliant, extremely good looking. I could go on. But anyway, but my point in saying that is that, we'll take every opportunity we can to dissect it, analyze it, overanalyze it, and ask a million questions about it, right? And by the time we've done that, the hour's over and we haven't gotten anywhere. When in essence, ERP is really just about understanding that it is such an effective treatment for OCD. You can get better, and the way to do it is to just listen and say yes, and not question it, not try to figure it out, because you can't figure your way out of OCD, even though that is our goal. We would love to be able to just figure it out and move on with our lives. So I'm just looking down to make sure I didn't miss. So Mario, I know. Let me see so thank you, Heather, for commenting. I really appreciate that. Let me quickly scroll up, Mario, and make sure I didn't miss it. I don't think I missed your question. Where did I? Jess, let me know if you see Mario's question from early on, or if you actually, oh, I see your question. I'll get to it, Mario. It's at 7:21. Stay tuned. Hang tight. I will get to your question for sure. Let me get back up. Okay, so David at 7:11 p.m. wrote, how do you help someone on their own their treatment and participate in it? My son is resistant to doing his treatment, ERPs, and often denies that it is OCD, but that it's just him being dramatic, etc. Great question, David. I have a question back to you. And you're welcome, Heather. My pleasure. I have a question back to you, and that is, how old is your son? Although I see a picture on your Facebook, so I'm imagining under 18. But if you're still on and still joining us, I'll just give it a second. How old is your son? But essentially, sorry, I'm just rereading your question and giving you a second to weigh in if you're still here. But for anybody that's a parent, it's really hard to get a child if we're talking about under 18-year-old. And we actually had a really long discussion about this on last week's town hall, I think it was. 14. Oh, that is a very old picture. No problem. 14. Okay, perfect, David. Thank you. So teenagers are tough. We know that anyway. They don't need OCD to be difficult. You have some advantages and you have some disadvantages, right? The advantage is that they're under 18. And the advantage in that is they may not like you, but you can tell them what to do, right? They're not adults. And so if you had to, you could force them into treatment, you could force them into therapy, you could force them to go, and all of those things. Once they become 18, it becomes a lot trickier in terms of what you are and aren't able to do. And I'm by no means saying, tie them up, throwing them in the back of a trunk and take them to therapy, even though that's what my parents did. I'm kidding. Mom's watching. That was a joke. Nobody tied me up and took me to therapy. So there's definitely some things you can do, David. The first thing is, from what I'm reading, my son's resistant to doing his treatment and often denies that it is OCD, but it's just him being dramatic. Okay. So first of all, from that, I can ascertain that he's in treatment, he's seeing a therapist. And it sounds like one of the obstacles is just accepting himself that he has OCD. And that can be for a variety of reasons. The stigma, owning the fact that you have a disorder or a mental disease, maybe a lack of education or understanding of what it means to actually have OCD, that, comparison to his friends, and feel free to comment. I'll check back at the bottom. But comparison to his friends, again, the stigma associated with it. And so with that in mind, there's a couple things we can do here. I would ask, A, are you involved in treatment or therapy? And you don't need to answer, but these are just things to think about. I'll give up my email at the end. Are you, as his parents, involved in treatment or therapy beyond just, finding out what you need to find out because he's underage? Are you involved in how to interact with him, what to say to him? Are you involved in how to communicate with him, how to help educate him, support him in his treatment? Also, has he been really effectively explained what OCD is, how it reacts, how it works in the brain? All of the details of what OCD, just sort of to demystify and destigmatize what OCD is. Another thing is to connect him with somebody else his own age that has OCD, because I think, and he may be like, heck no, out of the gate, and it's just something to think about. Oh, Nikki Bradley's here. Hey, all the way from Dublin. But I think, connecting with other kids his age that also have OCD is a big, big moment. Not only to meet someone that may be going through the same thing as you, but just to have somebody your age to talk to. It doesn't have to be necessarily talking about OCD up top, but to connect him with an advocate his age, or at least close to his age, where he can meet someone and see, hey, I'm a senior in high school. Life's been really good, or I'm about to go to college, or I just went to college. And again, you can email me. And then the last thing is, what is your communication with him in terms of OCD, right? Are you communicating with him and what you expect? What are expectations like? There's also reward systems that you can use. There's so much to dive into, but the bottom line is, I'd be very curious to know what you're doing, what you're not doing, and maybe I can offer you some things that worked for me and some things that I know worked for other parents that have children. But the first place, I'm not a therapist, and I always reiterate that I'm not a therapist. I would always start with your therapist, and you can say that if you said that to them, then the question needs to become, what are our action items? What can we do? How can we be involved to support our son? What are some rewards that we can give him? What are some things that we can take away? Right? What are some systematic pressures that we can add onto, so he doesn't have time to indulge, and so forth. What's a healthy way for us to communicate? Are you participating in his rituals, in his compulsions? Are you reassuring? Are you enabling? What are ways that we can choose not to do that and still feel supportive? I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but I really just want to get your mind going, as I don't know your exact circumstances. But there are a lot of ways to approach a therapist and sort of problem solve this area. So hopefully some of that helped. As I scroll down, Summer wrote, I've had OCD since 2005, did better in the past, but I'm now at the worst time in my life. Finally found a new therapist, taking new clients yesterday. Been trying to go back on medication, but I have terrible side effects to all. Not feeling very optimistic at this point, and my energy level is 0. Makes it hard to work at things. I'm sorry, Summer. And you can take that down, Jess. I don't want to make her feel too uncomfortable. Thank you. I'm sorry you're feeling that way. I know so many of us have been there in that place. But you know what's awesome is if you found a new therapist at the worst time of your life, that means that there's hope, there's optimism there. You're doing in spite of, which is a huge step. And you may not think of it as a huge step, but those are major wins. I know at my worst, my parents found treatment. My parents found therapy. I was, I wasn't interested in doing that. And so I think you being assertive, despite you feeling that crappy, I would latch on to that a little bit and try to see some of that light beneath all that darkness that you're feeling. And, I don't like to talk typically about medications because, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not anything. I'm not a clinician. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't know what I am. We'll get back to that. We'll do a whole Just Ethan on what I am. But being collaborative with your psychiatrist is most important, and having collaborative conversations, just being open and honest. I know that the whole process can feel like a lab rat and it sucks, but as we know, medication can be very helpful along with treatment. So to your point of not very optimistic, find optimism in the fact that you're proactively seeking out treatment, which is huge. And even though your energy is level, it makes it hard to work at things, I know, but keep working at things. I think that's amazing. I think that alone is such a huge win. Celebrate that win. And now try to just take it a moment at a time. When's your appointment? What do I need to do to get to that appointment? What can I do that's value driven until I get to that appointment? Can I go for a walk? Can I watch a show that I like? Can I call a friend? See some family? What are some things, and really just try to break down your life in more simpler terms right now, since you're really struggling. And just, so what does it take to get to that therapy appointment? And then once you're there, you can talk about goals, but way to go. I think that's freaking awesome. So I'm sorry you're suffering and struggling, but I'm excited to hear that you're going to see a new therapist, and there's some legitimate hope on the horizon for you. Kim at 712 wrote, I've had OCD for about 25 years. The pandemic has now gifted me contamination OCD. I have honestly not done much with my OCD in the past, just accommodated the symptoms. I feel that I can no longer ignore it. I'm striving to tackle all of it. I've been learning a lot through IOCDF, and I've been talking to my therapist. It's been tough, but I am determined. I guess I have a determined mindset. Determined mindset's the way to go. Great way to plug in mindset. Kim, all that I would add is, make sure your therapist just does exposure and response prevention. In addition to acceptance commitment therapy, maybe dialectical behavioral therapy, but ERP is really where it's at. So it's very important that your therapist does that, as I've seen you talk about being on the IOCDF. But I think determined is an awesome mindset to be. And whether Summer, you believe it or not, I would bestow upon you the mindset of determined as well. Ali wrote, I've been through residential and made huge strides. Doing a real world ERP now, it's a lot harder to give in to the ERP while managing work too. Great question, Ali. Or not really a question, but a statement. But I can definitely talk to this. It's 7:12 p.m. I was just looking down to see. David wrote, as parents, we feel so helpless, and how to help if you won't cooperate. Let me just speak to that real quick, David. Sorry, Ali. I'll be right with you. We have to understand. So, and this is why I really. He was diagnosed when he was 7. He has been getting therapy, CBT and ERP since then, and we all have become pretty well educated over the years. Okay, he's experienced quite a bit of freedom from the OCD for about 3 years, but when COVID hit and school routine changed, etc., his symptoms have spiraled out of control. His therapist is helpful and skilled at handling OCD, but our son doesn't want to cooperate and do his ERPs. Okay, thank you for the, and Rachel, okay, I see you're relating. Ali, I will get back to you, I promise. Thank you for the additional insight, David. And as parents, we feel so helpless. So we have to look at, something that may help. And I'm so glad to hear that you're with a skilled therapist. So a couple things we have to look at. The landscape is ever changing. The good news is that ERP, you can treat any symptomatology with ERP, and that's probably also frustrating for you. It's also probably frustrating for you to know that he's done well with ERP. It's helped in the past, and so to see this all happen again is painful. But keep in mind that this is, that's sort of the nature of OCD, and these were unprecedented times. So I think the first thing is we need to have a lot of compassion with ourselves and our kids, and be understanding of the circumstances, and that just things are really unique and weird right now. Even like Ali, somebody, Kim is talking about contamination OCD. So I think that's, not uncommon. Just OCD hates change. It hates disruption and routine, and it can thrive. It can thrive on that. And so when there's a major disruption, I would add, David, that because you have such a great therapist, this will get sorted out, and your son will get tired of whatever it is he's doing. I'm sure there's a lot of things going on. And that's the other thing, is we have to keep in mind that a lot of this is not just OCD, right? Life has been hard lately. Life has been real hard for a lot of people. And we always have, I think we're very quick to blame OCD and anxiety. But the reality is sometimes life is just life, and life is difficult. We have to acknowledge those real life reactions that everything's going to, especially kids in high school. It was 14, so I'm guessing it was his freshman year, or it was the end of 8th grade. So, right, he's going through a lot of stuff as well. I would remain optimistic, David, to continue to collaborate with your therapist. Do not see this as a setback. See this as a part of the process. This is what OCD does. It gets difficult at heart at different times. Puberty, later puberty, middle school to high school, colleges, it can rear up. I would take, and I know it can be equally frustrating that he has the skills, they're right there, but he won't grab them. And what do we do, right? What do we do when that's the case? And so you left one more comment, David. And so I know you feel so helpless. So one of the questions I would add to everything I said, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, David. Don't reassure me. Anyway, one of the questions I would add is, if he's not willing to participate right now, I'd be curious to know if you've asked the therapist what you can do. And I don't mean what you can do to help him, but what you can do to help you. And sometimes we have to do that, right? If our kids are not willing to participate and we can only do so much, then it becomes back to us as the parents. What do we do for us? What do we do that's healthy for us? What's a way that we can continue living life in a healthy manner? And that also is healthy for our child or our children, right? In a way that does not accommodate OCD, but continue to move them toward a treatment-oriented, continue to move them in a treatment-oriented direction. And then also continue to keep in mind, and the biggest thing is that anger, that frustration that you feel, that's at the OCD. Sometimes it's hard to remember that. You don't want to be frustrated or angry at your kiddo. It's a crappy way to feel. But try to keep in mind that it's their OCD that's aggravating, annoying, frustrating, angering. Maybe you said or did things that didn't make you comfortable just out of that frustration. But continued collaboration with your therapist and clinician in a meaningful way, not only in ways you can continue to help your son or daughter or anyone I'm teaching to, but in ways you can continue to help yourself until they're ready to come around, are really important and strategic ways that you can do that, because it's a family disorder, right? It is a family disorder. And so we need to treat the family. And sometimes the family is the parents. I was really reluctant to go to therapy when it got really hard and my parents went instead of me, and, they talked, and I don't know what they talked about, but it was to support them. And so I would turn to that as well. There's also some great articles on the IOCDF page about parents and OCD. We had some great live streams previously. Why am I blanking on the town hall that we just had? It was with John Abramowitz, and it was about, it was family. Oh my gosh. Okay, Jess, can you put a link to the family town hall? We just did a family town hall 2 weeks ago, and sorry, I'm a little slow occasionally. But we did a family town hall a couple weeks ago with some amazing clinicians. It was really, really good. Jess will put a link to it. David, anyone else having kids, please feel free to give it a watch. Lots of good information from some brilliant people and amazing experts. And we also have a lot of additional live streams and content on families and parents and kids under 18, over 18, and so forth. So, David, I hope that was additionally helpful. And thank you for sharing that with us. I really, really appreciate it. Allie, did not forget about you. Real world ERPs. We have to acknowledge, well, let me back up. We have to give ourselves a lot of compassion when it comes to sort of leaving residential and jumping into real world, right? So it can feel like we're failing, or we're not a success, or we're not doing it right, or it's much harder, or my OCD has gotten a lot worse, or I wasn't prepared for this, on and on and on and on and on. And this is similar. It's a similar conversation that I had with that woman at the residential program. The reality is, the analogy that I like to use is when you first start ERP, it's like you're in sixth grade in middle school. It's like, where am I? What's going on? I don't know anything. I'm overwhelmed. This is scary. And by the time you exit residential, you're sort of like in eighth grade. You're like the king of the residential. You like know what's going on. You got it down, so to speak. You're doing pretty well within the confines of that, right? And then you go out into the real world. And it can feel like things are going backwards for you, but really you're just in high school as a freshman, right? So you're actually moving forward. You're doing what you're supposed to do. You're living into your values. You're going to that next step in the process. But you're back to, oh my gosh, what's going on? Oh, I don't know where anything is. How is this supposed to work? This is really scary, right? But if you keep doing what you're supposed to be doing, you'll become a senior again, sort of in high school or in life in this case, right? And as you go through different milestones, you'll continue to face those different challenges that will challenge your OCD. I could give you 1,000 of them right now, of different times and places this week, this month, this year, where good stuff, right? Where OCD goes, and it really wants to derail you. And those are all really fantastic opportunities to engage in the skills and tools. So Allie, be compassionate, be graceful with yourself, give yourself room to feel everything, and don't try to be perfect with it, because, I know we feel like, okay, I just got out of residential, I got to get this right, I can't go back, and we have all these thoughts, this mindset that we have to get it right and perfect and be perfect. Yes, the goal is to not compulse. The goal is to not make room for compulsions. The goal is to do our skills, let thoughts be there, let feelings be there, follow our values. That is what we want to do, and follow that track as closely as possible. But it by no means means that you won't compulse, or that you shouldn't, or that you need to beat yourself up when you do. And also, if you're having a hard time, giving into the ERP while managing work, I would start. It's very easy to look at the amount of times that our minds wander to, or we wander either physically or mentally to compulsions and rituals, right? It's like, oh my God, I compulsed 1,000 times today. But I would maybe reframe it and look at how many times when you're at work, do you come back to the work? So not concentrate so much on like, wow, I'm really struggling during work, but looking at, and if you're not doing this, how many times can you come back to the present moment at work? How many times can you utilize those ERP skills and tools, right? Let the thoughts and feelings be there, resist the compulsions, and go into opposite action. Use your work as a motivator to dive in. And how long can you focus on work while that discomfort is happening? And you know what? Maybe you're only 10% present, or 20% present, or 30% present in work. And maybe OCD is screaming at 80%. And instead of being like, oh my gosh, I'm not fully here, it's, hey, look, I'm fighting this. Right? Let's set expectations. I'm fighting this. I'm only 20% focused on work, but it's small baby steps, as Katie said, right? It's these small baby steps. So maybe tomorrow, maybe for the next week or a month, it'll be 20, and then 25, and then 30, and then 35. And then one day you'll be like, I didn't think that much about OCD today, or whatever the symptom was or subtype, right? So start looking at the wins and reframe it, and look at it like you're moving forward. And as you move forward, and as you continue to live a value-driven life, and challenge OCD through life, OCD will kick up and try to grab you and sort of push you back onto the roller coaster, right? But it's your job to recognize that and get off. Brandon, and let's see Mario's question. I don't want to leave Mario hanging. Got you, Mario. So Brandon asked, I've been able to improve with ERP and able to calm my fears, but I'm struggling and ruminating about the idea of willingly wanting to act on my harm OCD. this wasn't a problem before OCD. Any tips? So I'm wondering if it's a feeling. So when you say and able to calm my fears, but I'm struggling and ruminating about the idea of willingly wanting to act. So I just wonder, Brandon, and I may have you email me if you're struggling. I need clarification on your question. Are you worried that you're thinking these thoughts and not having a lot of anxiety like you were before? We call that a backdoor spike. When you're like, wait a minute, I'm having these really terrifying thoughts and I'm not having anxiety about it. Does that mean that I want to do it? Or are you just struggling with trying to tell yourself as an exposure that, maybe I do want to do this thing that's really horrible? And are you struggling with that? And then I can give you some tips. And you added, I keep looking for ways to disprove that or ignore that. So it sounds like the thought is terrifying and struggling with ruminating about the willing act of my harm OCD. So harm OCD is tricky. It can be tricky, just like any other subtype. I had it. The stakes feel very high with harm OCD, as they do with anybody's OCD. But for me, it was, oh my God, I can't ignore this. I'm going to die. It was that simple, right? I can't ignore these thoughts because what if there's a 0.1% chance I'm going to die? I need to pay attention to it because it is my life we're talking about. Now, you may have harm OCD around somebody else or yourself or whatever. The reality of it is we have to be willing to let our biggest fear be a possibility in order to get past it. And that's a very scary thing. And that applies to anybody's subtype and anybody's symptom. We have to let our biggest fear be a possibility in order to move through it. And we have to own it. And we really have to let that be there. I don't mean like, hey, okay, that's fine. And we have to believe it. We have to believe. I really had to get to a place where it was like I could die at any moment. And I'm just going to, until I drop dead, I'm going to keep moving forward, right? And we have to kind of scare ourselves that much in order to really make OCD loosen its grip. And so I understand that you're looking, and that's the way you're trained, to disprove or just ignore it, which is kind of we call it white knuckling. It's just like gritting your teeth and like, whatever. And then it's hard to concentrate too when you're trying to just ignore it and thought suppress it and all that stuff, right? But in reality, we need to look at what you're losing by trying to disprove and ignore. What are you not able to do? And you've seen that ERP has improved, maybe with other subtypes or symptoms that are lower down on your hierarchy. So if they've worked for that, I know this feels different, but at the end of the day, OCD is OCD is OCD. It's not. They're still just thoughts and they're still just feelings. And the ERP is just as effective. So try to pinpoint the things that you're losing, how disproving and how ignoring isn't helping you, and really starting to embrace this idea of I have to live with the possibility that I may in order to get past, right? You can easily say, I'm pretty sure this is OCD. Might not be. I'm not sure. Okay, let's move forward. Mario, you still hanging in? Here, I met your question. I got you, Mario. And then I think I'm gonna make Mario's last question because I know we're coming up on 8. Lots of good conversation. I'm just reading David's comment. We were speaking. Yeah, I understand, David. You're very welcome. Okay, Mario, I got you right here. And then we'll wrap things up and let everybody have dinner. So Mario wrote, I feel hopeless. OCD is way bigger than me. This is at 7:21 p.m., Jess. I feel hopeless. OCD is way bigger than me. I live with it 24/7. I feel I'm giving up. Do you think it's because I tried to do ERP on my own as I couldn't find any ERP therapists here? Any advice, please? Looks like a lot of people have been giving you advice, Mario, and I think that's awesome. I'm so sorry that you feel that way. I hope that from what I've said, you have gained some hope. I relate to, and I'm no way saying that I understand your experience, but I, in my own experience, felt like I was living with it 24/7. I couldn't get relief. I was in constant pain. I too felt like giving up. I can't, because I don't know your own experience, I can't speak to whether you tried to do it on your own or not. What I can tell you is that as you can see, there's lots of people on the thread that want to support you, and we want to support you as well. So with that in mind, and I know you're in Lebanon, right, Mario? I'm gonna look real quick. Sorry to be silent for a second. I just want to make sure that I remember that correctly. Oh, I already lost the things, but I'm pretty sure you're in Lebanon, Mario. You know, here's the bottom line. A, it sucks that access to treatment and therapy isn't as accessible outside of the US. It's terrible, and it shouldn't be that way, and that's why we do what we do. But there's hope and there's help. I swear to you, there's hope and there's help. And so the first thing I would tell, yes, Lebanon. Okay. So the first thing I would tell you, Mario, is, you know, again, I'm not a clinician, I'm not an expert. You know, if you actually feel like, you know, giving up or anything like that, please reach out to, you know, local help if you need that. With that being said, I can't speak to, I know that ERP works. You have to be in a certain mindset. I can definitely refer some books to you, some online things, some online classes, or online treatment programs. I don't know if you've reached out to the IOCDF, but you can email them, you can email me. I think there's a lot, I think it can be hard to treat by yourself, for sure. And you're definitely not alone in that. I know so many people here can relate to that. I think that with that being said, I think you can absolutely have a full life and the life that you want. I think we just need to get creative about how to get you there. As with anybody else, we're all in such unique positions. And so I would by no means consider yourself a lost cause, A, because you feel like it didn't work the first time, B, because of how severe it is right now, or C, because treatment isn't readily available for you. Because the reality is things are changing very quickly. Teletherapy, virtual therapy is becoming much more prevalent, right? In fact, I just talked to a therapist last weekend that treats individuals in that part of the world. So actually, if you email me, I will connect you. So the reality is it's a big question to answer, but please don't lose hope. Please don't lose hope. I'm sorry you're in pain, you're struggling. We have so much content online. There's so many great books. Please shoot me an email and I'll give you my email address, and I will try to point as much support as your way as possible in terms of resources, in terms of books, in terms of online accounts, you know, anything that we can do. But you know what, Mario? There's individuals that have been in residential programs, and including myself and others, where, you know, ERP didn't work at first, and that can be due to a variety of things. So I by no means would beat yourself up because you feel you failed yourself trying to do ERP on your own. I was with some of the best clinicians in the world, and guess what? I didn't get better until I chose it, right? Until I went through a whole other myriad of things. And so I get, you know, and I was definitely in a place where I was like, yeah, ERP doesn't work for me. You know, I can't get better. I'm a lost cause, right? And so, and I had really amazing treatment providers and therapists. So give yourself some grace, give yourself some self-compassion. OCD is a disease, it's a disorder, it's not bigger than you. I know it feels that way now. I know it feels really terrible, right? And maybe the first thing to do is I don't know if you're already a member of an OCD community, like Health Unlock that we have, we'll put a link to it, or the No CD community, which is an app that you can download on Apple, Google Play or Apple Store, where they have a massive online community. But Mario, I would start with trying to engage online with as many people as possible in groups with OCD, and I can definitely point you towards some places. So stay with us, man, because there is hope and help, and you are not alone in feeling this way. I'm 3 minutes over. If I didn't get to anybody, we'll go ahead and put up my email. If I didn't get to anybody's questions, please don't hesitate to email me at justethan@iocdf.org. Right there, right there. Everything's in reverse in this camera. Jason, I see your question. I got to run, unfortunately. I'm so sorry I didn't get a chance, but if you email me your question, I will absolutely get back to you. Is my personal email. It goes right to me. So email me at justethan@iocdf.org. I may not answer right away, but I will definitely answer it. And so just some quick housekeeping, so hopefully you stick around. First of all, if you joined the Faith and Health, if you attended the Faith and Mental Health Conference, thank you so much. It was a huge success. It was amazing. So I hope you guys found it just as helpful and informative as we did. It was really phenomenal. Secondly, for all our virtual programming, visit iocdf.org/peace of mind. You can check out everything that we have scheduled. We have lots of things scheduled. Oh, I forgot, most importantly, to thank the IOCDF, of course, for the live stream, and my producer behind the scene, Jess, for doing all her wonderful work. Some quick quick notes. It's a busy week this week. So today, obviously, we just had Just Ethan, which was probably the best piece of content. I'm kidding. Tomorrow, Wednesday the 2nd at 12 p.m. Eastern is Chris's Corner. If you haven't met Chris Tronsden, he's a lead advocate. He's phenomenal. He's actually been doing this way longer than me. And he's an incredible advocate and dear friend. Tomorrow's topic, actually, and Mario, if you can attend, is on social media, advocating, spreading information, fostering community, utilizing media to create OCD awareness. There's going to be some great resources on there. That's to everybody. Kim Quinlan, which is CBT School and Your Anxiety Toolkit. It's going to be on there. Allegra Castens, which is Obsessively Ever After on Instagram. They're two huge accounts that have tons of great content. So 12 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. And then Thursday at 7 p.m., I'll be hosting another town hall, which is biologically based treatments. We'll have world-renowned expert Wayne Goodman on. Wayne Goodman actually was one of the co-founders of the IOCDF way back in the 80s. In addition to, he actually is the co-creator of the Y-Box, which is the primary diagnostic. He's a bit of an OCD celebrity. So if you want to tune in and see what things he had to say, he'll probably say a lot of things that I don't understand, but I'll nod my head like we do on Zoom and act like I know exactly what he's talking about. So if you want to tune in for that, that alone will be worth it. If you haven't already, you want to be notified about the program the IOCDF is having over the next month. In addition to visiting that website, you can subscribe and follow on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch. And you'll be notified at any time a live stream goes live. And that's, I think, everything. So with that, thank you for spending your Tuesday evening with us, or with me, and you're so used to us. And as always, you can email the foundation. And Mario, I encourage you to email the foundation as well. You can email them at info@iocdf.org. You can email them with anything that you want or need, questions on topics, IOCDF-related stuff, conference stuff. We have lots of conferences going on, so you want to check out the conference schedule as well for the summer. Any thoughts or questions, always somebody will get back to you. So with that, have a wonderful day. Stay safe, stay vigilant, fill the fields. Don't let OCD off the hook, and we will see you. Okay, so you almost left. Next week will be another Just Ethan. So on Tuesday, 7 p.m. is another Just Ethan. And then from there, it will be every 2 weeks. So we're getting back on schedule. So this is a special edition Just Ethan. We have our next Just Ethan. So 2 weeks of Just Ethan. So you may be laughing, you may be smiling, or you may be crying. All feelings are valid. Okay, yep, there's the virtual programming. Okay, with that, thank you so much. Have a good night.